All right, get ready for this deep dive. We are heading straight into space because today we're talking about the SpaceX Crew 10 mission. And this one's got it all, folks. It's like a real nail biter.
Yeah, and for this deep dive, we are looking at Vega's daily vibes. They really get into the weeds on this one, so
Oh, yeah, they did.
we'll try to bring you the most interesting bits.
The highlights.
This mission, it really brings up the question, though, like, are we finally at a point where commercial spaceflight is just kind of normal?
I know, right? Because this is
I mean, this is the 10th mission
the 10th.
for NASA's Commercial Crew Program.
Wow, 10th mission. That's a big deal.
It is, it is.
Okay, so set the scene for us.
All right, picture this. It's March 14th, 2025, 7:03 p.m. Eastern Time. The sky lights up over Kennedy Space Center as a Falcon 9 Block 5 rocket blasts off.
A Block 5, just for our listeners who maybe aren't, rocket scientists.
Right, right.
That's like the latest and greatest version of SpaceX's workhorse rocket.
It's all about making these rockets reusable.
Yeah.
Reliable?
Yeah.
And that makes space travel, well, a little more accessible.
A little bit easier. A little bit more, maybe not easier, but attainable.
Attainable, yeah. Yeah, like,
Not for us. Not for me.
well, not for us, not yet. But even the most reliable machines can have issues.
Right.
And this launch was no exception. Just as they were about to launch, a hydraulic issue pops up. They had to put the countdown on hold.
Okay, hydraulic issue. That already sounds serious. What happened?
Oh, it was tense, for sure. But these ground crews, they know their stuff. They were able to identify the problem. They fixed it quickly, and then the countdown was back on.
Nerves of steel.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Talk about cool under pressure. Okay, so the rocket launches, and on board we've got Crew 10. They are ready to go. This is not your average crew, right?
No, not at all. It's an interesting mix for this mission. We've got veterans, and we have some newbies.
Oh, cool.
Leading the charge is Commander Anne McClain. She's a veteran astronaut, lots of experience.
Lots of experience. And then we have pilot Nicole Ayers, and this is actually her first space flight ever.
Oh, wow.
Can you imagine those emotions?
Wow, what a way to start your career.
I know, I know.
Jeez, and this crew isn't just representing the U.S., right?
Right, it's an international crew.
Cool.
We've got mission specialist Takuya Inishi from JAXA, that's the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency.
Okay.
And then we have Kirill Peskov. He's representing Roscosmos. That's Russia's space agency.
Wow, this is awesome.
Yeah, it really shows you that space exploration goes beyond borders. It brings people together with a common goal.
Yeah, it really does. It's like the whole world working together to see what's out there. All right, so we've got this incredible crew, a top-of-the-line rocket, a successful launch. What happens next? What's on the to-do list for this mission?
Well, here's where things get a little dramatic.
Okay, I like dramatic.
Crew 10, they're not just going up there to do science. This is actually a rescue mission.
Hold on, a rescue mission.
Yeah.
What happened?
2 astronauts, Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams, they've been stranded on the ISS for 9 months. 9 months.
9 months? Are you kidding me? That's longer than some maternity leaves.
I know, it's unprecedented. Their ride home, a Boeing Starliner capsule, it experienced some major technical difficulties and they got stuck up there.
Wow. 9 months. So what went wrong with the Starliner? And how are Wilmore and Williams doing after being up there for so long?
Well, the mission was supposed to be pretty standard, a normal stay on the ISS. But the Starliner, it had all sorts of problems. Software glitches, propulsion system malfunctions, you name it.
Oh my gosh.
And NASA hasn't released a ton of details about the astronauts, But
Right.
I think it's safe to say that being stuck in a space station for that long
Yeah.
probably takes a toll.
Yeah. I can't even imagine being in a confined space, being so far away from home, the same people every single day,
Exactly.
and not knowing when you're going to be able to come back.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's not just the astronauts who are feeling the pressure.
Right.
This whole thing has gotten a lot of attention. Even big names like former President Trump
Wow.
and Elon Musk have been saying, hey, we need to get these guys back. What's the holdup?
Right. It's like the whole world is watching now. So
Yeah,
it's not just
yeah.
about bringing these 2 astronauts home. This mission is really a test for commercial spaceflight.
Absolutely. The whole world is watching to see what happens. The stakes are huge.
Okay, so we've got this rescue mission going on. But Crew 10, they're not just up there, twiddling their thumbs, right?
Oh, definitely not.
Yeah.
They have a pretty busy schedule. Lots of research to conduct, experiments to run. The ISS is basically this giant lab 250 miles above Earth.
Yeah, they're doing stuff up there that we could only dream of doing down here.
Exactly. They're studying all sorts of things like the effects of microgravity.
Microgravity, that's like the whole floating around thing, right?
Yeah. They want to see how being in space affects the human body, the stuff that we just can't really replicate down here.
So like bone density and stuff?
Yeah, bone density, muscle atrophy, all those things, because you're not working against gravity all the time.
Right. Makes sense.
They have to figure out how to deal with these things if we ever want to send people on long missions.
Yeah, like to Mars and beyond.
Exactly. They're also looking at things like 3D printing in space, which is pretty cool.
3D printing in space, that's straight out of Star Trek, isn't it?
I know, right? But it could totally change the game. Imagine being able to manufacture tools or parts or even habitats while you're in space.
That would be insane.
Yeah, no more relying on expensive resupply missions.
Right.
So they're testing out different materials, seeing what works in microgravity.
That's awesome. So they're looking at human health, future technology. What other kind of experiments are happening up there?
Well, they're also doing a lot of Earth observation studies.
Mm.
They have an amazing view of our planet from up there.
Oh, yeah, the best view in the house.
Exactly. So they're collecting data on climate change, weather patterns, deforestation. They can even track natural disasters as they're happening.
Wow. So they're helping us understand Earth better, too.
Exactly.
So they're rescuing these astronauts, they're doing all the science, they're watching Earth. It's a busy mission.
It is. And it really shows how companies like SpaceX are changing space exploration. The Commercial Crew program has been incredibly successful.
Yeah, it feels like there are more and more private companies getting into space all the time.
Yeah.
What do you think? What does it mean for the future of space travel?
Well, I think it's definitely shaking things up. It's
Yeah.
making things more competitive.
Yeah, it's not just NASA anymore.
Exactly. Private companies, they bring a lot to the table. They innovate. They're usually more cost effective.
Mhm.
So this could mean more frequent missions, more ambitious projects. We could even see space tourism become a real thing.
That would be wild. But I imagine there are some downsides too, right?
Oh, for sure. There are definitely challenges.
Like what?
Well, how do we regulate safety? How do we share all the data that's being collected? And how do we make sure that space exploration benefits everyone, not just a few wealthy companies? There's a lot to figure out.
It's a whole new world, literally. Okay, so before we get ahead of ourselves and blast off into the future, let's go back to Crew 10 for a second. You know, our source, Vega's Daily Vibes, they mentioned that this crew is particularly diverse. Can you tell us a little bit more about the astronauts themselves? What kind of backgrounds do they come from?
Yeah, so as we mentioned, Anne McClain, she's got a ton of experience, but she's also a military veteran and an engineer. She's got this unique set of skills.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. Nicole Ayers, the pilot, this is her first time in space, remember?
Yeah.
Well, she's a former fighter pilot and a test pilot, so
Yeah.
talk about rigorous training.
Right. And then we have Takuya Onishi. He's a former airline pilot. He's bringing that global perspective.
Right. And then Kirill Peskov, he has a PhD in physics. He specializes in space robotics.
Wow. So this isn't just a bunch of astronauts. This is like a team of experts.
Exactly. Space exploration, it's not just about rockets and spaceships. It's about people pushing the limits of what we can achieve.
It's the human element that makes it so inspiring. Okay, so we've talked about the research on the ISS, the future of spaceflight. We've even talked about the astronauts themselves. But there's one big thing we haven't touched on yet. Politics.
Ah, yes. Space exploration, it's never really been separate from politics, has it?
Nope. And now that commercial companies are getting involved, it's even more complicated. This whole Crew 10 mission, this rescue, it's really put a spotlight on that.
Absolutely. And in our last segment, we're going to dive into those political pressures and how they're shaping space travel.
All right, so we talked about the science, the technology, the people behind Crew 10, but, space exploration, it's not just about what happens up there in orbit. There's a lot happening down here on Earth, too, and a lot of that has to do with politics.
That's right. It's true. Space and politics, they've always been kind of linked, right?
Right.
But now with commercial spaceflight really taking off, things are getting even more, I don't know, messy.
Yeah, complicated for sure. And this Crew 10 mission with this whole rescue situation, it's definitely shining a light on all of that.
Absolutely.
We talked before about how people like former President Trump and Elon Musk have been pretty vocal about the whole thing, pushing for a quick resolution. But what's really going on behind the scenes politically with all of this? What are the big issues at play here?
Well, I think one of the big things is national pride. Space exploration, it's always been a way for countries to show off.
Yeah.
to prove they're technologically advanced, that they're a major player on the world stage. So the longer these astronauts are stuck up there, the worse it looks, right?
Yeah.
Especially now that private companies are so involved. It's not just NASA anymore.
Right.
So yeah, this mission, it's a big test for everybody. If it goes well, it's a win for America, for innovation, for showing what we can do. But if it doesn't go well, people are going to start asking questions about whether we can really still lead in space.
Right, exactly. So there's a lot riding on this. And then you've got this whole debate about the government versus private companies, right? Who should be in charge of space exploration? Some people say NASA should be calling the shots. Others say private companies like SpaceX, they're just better at it.
It's a tough question. It's
Yeah.
like, who can do it better, faster, cheaper?
Right.
But space exploration, it's so complex. Is there really a simple answer?
I don't think so.
They both bring something different to the table.
Exactly.
NASA has the experience, the history, all those scientists and engineers. But private companies, they can be more flexible, more innovative, and they often cost less.
So maybe it's not about one being better than the other, but figuring out how they can work together, right?
I think that's a really important point. This mission has shown us that collaboration is key, but it also brings up some important questions. How do we manage that collaboration? How do we make sure everything's safe? And how do we make sure space exploration benefits everybody, not just a select few?
That's a lot to think about. So as we look ahead, what do you see as the biggest political challenges for space exploration?
I think one of the biggest challenges is going to be figuring out how to deal with all the different players who want to be a part of it.
Mm.
It's not just countries anymore. It's private companies, nonprofits, even individuals with enough money can launch their own missions.
Wow, so it's getting crowded up there.
It is. And that means a lot of different interests, a lot of different agendas.
Mhm.
So who gets to decide what happens in space? Who makes the rules? And who benefits from all the resources and discoveries that are made?
It's almost like a whole new Wild West out there.
Yeah, kind of. And then there's the question of sustainability. As we explore space, maybe even start using its resources, we have to do it responsibly. We don't want to damage the environment up there or cause conflicts.
So it's not just about getting to space, it's about how we behave once we're there.
Exactly. It's about thinking long term, making sure we're not messing things up for future generations. And that means working together, being ethical, and having a vision that benefits both Earth and space.
Wow, when you put it that way, it's clear that space exploration isn't just about rockets and science. It's about us, about humanity, and what kind of future we want to create.
I think that's a great way to sum it up.
It really makes you think. Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive into the Crew 10 mission. What are the big takeaways for our listeners? What should they keep in mind as they follow this incredible story of space exploration?
Well, first, I think it's clear that commercial spaceflight is here to stay. It's changing everything about how we explore space, and it's creating both amazing opportunities and some tough challenges.
Yeah, space exploration isn't what it used to be.
Exactly. Second, space exploration is inherently political. Decisions about space are always influenced by national interests, economic goals, and technological progress. So understanding those political forces is crucial for making good decisions about the future of space.
It's all connected.
And finally, and maybe most importantly, space exploration isn't just about reaching for the stars, it's about understanding our place in the universe. It's about thinking about our responsibilities to each other, to the future, and to the cosmos itself.
It's a really powerful reminder that space exploration is about more than just what we can achieve. It's about who we are and what kind of future we want to build.
Well said.
Well, it's been amazing exploring this mission with you. I hope our listeners are as fascinated by space as we are. Thanks